Avery Mitchell moved quietly through the Lake Arrowhead ballroom, her polished shoes barely making a sound on the gleaming hardwood floors. The scent of lemon polish and floral arrangements filled the air, mixing with the subtle bitterness of expensive wine and fresh-baked hors d'oeuvres. She kept her eyes down, avoiding the curious glances of guests in tailored suits and sparkling gowns. It was safer that way. The retreat was an annual tradition at Carter & Gray, a 3-day leadership summit where executives gathered to toast their success and quietly jockey for the next promotion. Avery had worked the event 2 years running, usually stationed behind the scenes, but tonight they were short-staffed, and she'd been asked to help on the ballroom floor. She didn't mind. Not really. She just hoped he wouldn't be here. But of course he was. Preston Carter, co-founder, CEO, and living legend, stood near the far end of the ballroom, glass in hand, holding court with the usual glow of entitlement. Silver hair, navy suit, that charming but icy smile that never quite reached his eyes. He was speaking to a group of young associates, all nodding as if his words were carved in marble. Avery turned away quickly, her heart catching in her throat. She adjusted the serving tray on her hip and moved to refill the empty glasses along the buffet. She hadn't seen him in over a decade, but he hadn't changed. Not really. A laugh broke from across the room, loud, arrogant. "And that's why we don't let the interns near the quarterly report," Preston joked, and the group around him erupted in polite laughter. Avery's hands trembled slightly as she set down a row of clean wine glasses. She needed to breathe. She needed to stay invisible. But fate doesn't always respect wishes. As she stepped backward, someone bumped her from the side. Her tray wobbled, and in a second that felt like an eternity, a half-filled glass of red wine toppled from its place and spilled, straight onto Preston Carter's white dress shirt. The room froze. Gasps, hushed murmurs. Every eye turned toward the spill, then up at the maid who caused it. Avery stared at the deep red stain blooming across his chest like a wound. Her breath caught, but she didn't speak. Not yet. Preston looked down at the mess, then up at her. His expression darkened instantly. "Are you blind?" he barked. "The shirt costs more than your entire paycheck." Avery said nothing. Around them, the silence grew thicker. "Do you even speak English?" Preston snapped, stepping forward. "Get someone competent before you ruin the whole event." Avery looked at him then. Really looked. And though her heart raced, her face remained calm. "You taught me more than you know, Professor Carter," she said softly. Her voice was calm, unshaken, but her words struck like thunder. Preston's smirk faltered. For the first time that evening, his confidence slipped. Lauren Reeves, Vice President of Communications, blinked. She had been watching from across the room, wineglass in hand. Now she leaned forward slightly, narrowing her eyes at the maid. Noah Carter, Preston's son, shifted uncomfortably beside his father. He glanced between Avery and the older man, as if something had just clicked that shouldn't have. Avery gave a slight nod, then turned and walked away. She didn't apologize. She didn't explain. And that, somehow, was louder than any outburst. Lauren approached Preston cautiously. "Do you know her?" Preston adjusted his stained collar and scoffed. "Some temp help, clearly unqualified. I'll speak with the event manager." Lauren didn't press, but she didn't forget either. Meanwhile, Avery slipped through the kitchen doors, her breathing shallow. The world beyond the stainless steel prep counters and clanging silverware was silent now, and she welcomed the dull roar of the kitchen. It reminded her of control, of anonymity. "Are you okay?" asked Diane, the head of housekeeping, a quiet woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a softer heart. Avery nodded. "Just spilled wine. Nothing new." Diane watched her carefully. That wasn't just any wine, and that wasn't just any guest. Avery gave a small smile, one that didn't quite reach her eyes. "I'll finish my shift." Diane nodded but said nothing more. She'd learned long ago not to press Avery about things she wasn't ready to say. Later that night, long after the ballroom had emptied and the glasses had been washed, Avery sat alone in the break room, sipping lukewarm coffee. The lights overhead flickered slightly, casting shadows against the beige walls. She reached into her bag and pulled out a worn envelope, yellowed at the edges, creased from years of folding. Inside was a photo, a younger version of herself, beaming in a black graduation gown, standing on the steps of Columbia Law. Beside her stood Preston Carter. Back then, he wasn't a CEO yet, just a powerful professor, a rising star in the legal world, a man whose approval meant everything. She stared at the photo for a long time, then slid it back into the envelope and tucked it away. Across the resort, in her private suite, Lauren Reeves sat in bed with her laptop open. Something about that moment in the ballroom still nagged at her. "You taught me more than you know, Professor Carter." It hadn't sounded like sarcasm. It had sounded like history. She typed the words Avery Mitchell and Columbia Law into the search bar. Her finger hovered over the enter key. Then she pressed it. Lauren Reeves had seen 1,000 retreats. She'd sat through fireside chats, team-building hikes, and endless strategy sessions where buzzwords flew like confetti. But something about tonight felt off. She couldn't shake the moment. That sentence. "You taught me more than you know, Professor Carter." Lauren had replayed it again and again on the drive back to her suite. The look on Preston's face, the way his smirk had cracked, not from outrage, but from recognition. Now, with the Lake Arrowhead moon casting silver patterns on the curtains of her suite, Lauren sat on the edge of the bed, laptop balanced on her knees, nursing the last of a lukewarm chamomile tea. Avery Mitchell. That was the maid's name. She'd asked Diane discreetly after dinner, under the guise of checking on guest service feedback. Diane had only nodded and said, "Quiet girl, shows up on time, does her job, keeps to herself." Lauren had smiled politely, but her curiosity only deepened. She typed the name into her search bar. Avery Mitchell, Columbia Law. The screen blinked. Then a page of results loaded, mostly irrelevant LinkedIn profiles, social media accounts that hadn't been active in years, and some scattered academic forums. But one link caught her eye. Archived graduation photos. Columbia Law School, class of 2012. Lauren clicked. The image took a moment to load, and then there she was. Avery Mitchell, younger but unmistakable, standing tall in a black robe and cap, smile radiant beneath the spring sun. She wasn't alone in the photo. Standing beside her, arm around her shoulders, was a man Lauren knew all too well. Preston Carter. Her stomach twisted. It wasn't just some passing encounter. He had mentored her, been close to her. She scrolled further. Another name caught her eye. A name scribbled beneath a photo caption in a forum comment. Jenna Coleman. Lauren blinked. The name rang a faint bell, something buried in old HR files from years ago. Jenna had worked at Carter & Gray, right? Briefly. Then she just disappeared. No exit interview, no goodbye. Gone. Lauren leaned back, chewing the inside of her cheek. Coincidence didn't feel like a fitting word. A new email pinged. Subject: "You're not imagining it." From Anonymous at Proton Mail. Calm. Lauren frowned and clicked. She wasn't the first, and she won't be the last. You know who I am. Start with Jenna. RC. RC. It took Lauren half a second. Rebecca Coleman. Jenna. She grabbed her phone and opened the company's archived employee records. Jenna Coleman, communications associate, hired in 2013, terminated 6 months later. No listed reason. Lauren stared at the screen, then picked up her phone again. Her fingers hovered over the keypad. She didn't hesitate long. The number listed was old, but still active. The line rang twice, then again. Finally, a voice answered, soft, wary. "Hello? Jenna?" Lauren said carefully. "This is Lauren Reeves. I work at Carter & Gray." A long pause. "I know who you are," the voice replied. "I've been waiting for this call for 7 years." Lauren sat straighter. Then maybe it's time you told me everything. Silence stretched, and then Jenna sighed. It's not safe over the phone. Too many ears. Meet me in Pasadena tomorrow. There's a cafe on Marengo Avenue, 10 a.m. Understood, Lauren said. Thank you. I'm not doing this for you, Jenna replied, voice hardening. I'm doing it for her. The line went dead. Lauren stared at the screen for a long moment before closing the laptop. Across the resort, Avery lay awake in the tiny room housekeeping had assigned her. Her bag was packed, neatly, silently, ready for a quick exit if things escalated. She never stayed too long in one place. But tonight had been different. Tonight, she'd spoken. She didn't regret it, not exactly, but she did fear what might come next. Preston Carter didn't forget slights, and he never forgave. Still, she didn't plan on running. Not yet. Not this time. Rain tapped lightly on the windows of the resort cafe, the kind that wasn't loud enough to interrupt a conversation, but soft enough to make you feel like everything outside could wait a little longer. Avery Mitchell sat at a corner table near the back, a black coffee in front of her, untouched. She didn't glance at the clock. She didn't need to. If Lauren Reeves had meant what she said last night, she'd show up. At exactly 3:05 p.m., the door opened with a soft chime, and Lauren stepped inside, wrapped in a gray trench coat, hair still damp at the edges. She spotted Avery and approached without hesitation. "Thanks for agreeing to this," Lauren said, sliding into the chair opposite her. Avery offered a small nod. "I wasn't sure I would." Lauren gave a faint smile. "I wasn't sure you should." For a moment, neither spoke. The cafe buzzed with low conversations and the occasional hiss of steamed milk. It was a safe place for hard truths, at least for now. "I saw your graduation photo," Lauren began. "Columbia Law, class of 2012. Avery looked out the window. "That was a long time ago. You were top of your class." "Was," Avery echoed quietly, "before everything changed." Lauren studied her. "You were his student." Avery didn't ask who she meant. "More than that. I was his mentee, his project, his rising star." Lauren leaned forward slightly. "What happened?" Avery turned her coffee slowly, her fingers tracing the rim. "I got too smart, too confident. I spoke up when I shouldn't have. When Jenna Coleman was pushed out of her internship without cause, I wrote a letter to the dean. Preston saw it before it was submitted." She paused. Her voice didn't waver, but her eyes dimmed. 3 weeks later, my final thesis was flagged for plagiarism. A fabricated accusation, no hearing, no recourse. They said I could withdraw quietly or face expulsion. Lauren exhaled. "And you left." "I disappeared," Avery corrected. "Columbia erased my name from their records. Preston made sure of that." Lauren shook her head slowly. "I always knew he was cold, but this?" "He doesn't just silence people," Avery said softly. "He rewrites their story." A server passed by, offering a refill. Both women declined. Lauren looked down at her notebook. "There's a reason I reached out. Jenna told me to ask you about the night she left Carter and Gray." Avery's eyes flicked up. "She talked to you?" "She's scared, but she's tired of hiding." Avery didn't respond right away. Then, quietly, "He offered her a mentorship opportunity on a corporate retreat. She turned him down. A week later, she was labeled unstable and dismissed for behavioral inconsistencies. He never touched her. He didn't have to. He destroyed her credibility. And yours," Lauren said. Avery nodded. For a while, they sat in silence, the rain tapping a steady rhythm. "Why now?" Lauren finally asked. "Why speak up after all these years?" Avery looked at her directly for the first time. "Because I'm done running, and because you're the first person who actually asked." Lauren felt the weight of that land like a stone in her chest. "I want to help," she said, "but we'll need more. Witnesses, documents, something the board can't ignore." Avery reached into her coat and pulled out a small photo, placing it gently on the table. It was worn, edges curled. 2 women, arms around each other, smiling in graduation robes. Avery and Jenna. "This is all I have," Avery said. "But it's real." Lauren looked at the photo, then back at her. "I believe you," she said, "but I need them to believe you, too." Avery gave a small nod. "Then let's find the truth." As they stood to leave, Diane Turner passed by with a tray of clean mugs. She paused, giving Avery a long look before moving on. Her silence said more than words. Outside, the rain had stopped. The clouds were starting to break, just a little. Lauren walked with Avery to the edge of the resort lobby. "You'll hear from me soon," Lauren said. "There's going to be a board meeting." "I'll be there," Avery replied. As she turned to go, Lauren called after her. "Avery?" She paused. "Why didn't you fight back then, at Columbia?" Avery smiled sadly. "Because back then, I thought justice would show up on its own. Now I know better, Sab." As she disappeared into the hallway, leaving Lauren standing beneath the soft hum of lobby lights. The cafe on Marengo Avenue was quiet. Too quiet for a Friday morning. The kind of place where regulars didn't talk much, and newcomers were noticed with a nod and a glance. Jenna Coleman had chosen it carefully. She sat near the back, facing the door. She hadn't touched her croissant. Her coffee was lukewarm. At exactly 10 a.m., Lauren Reeves entered. Jenna recognized her instantly. Taller than she looked on the company website. Calm, but sharp. The kind of woman who didn't waste time pretending she didn't know things. Lauren approached the table. "Jenna?" Jenna gave a slight nod. "Have a seat." Lauren slid into the booth. Neither woman reached for a handshake. "I appreciate you meeting me," Lauren began. Jenna gave a dry smile. "I've turned down that request for 7 years. This time, I said yes." Lauren didn't ask why. She already knew. "I spoke with Avery," she said. Jenna's smile faltered. "So she stayed. She did more than stay. She's speaking up." Jenna looked away for a moment, her fingers tightening around the paper coffee cup. "I didn't think she would. Not after what happened to her." "She told me everything," Lauren said gently. "Columbia, the letter, Preston." Jenna nodded once slowly. "He doesn't make mistakes. He makes examples." Lauren exhaled. "I need to understand what happened at Carter and Gray, why you left." Jenna's voice was quiet, flat. "He called it mentorship, special projects. Then it turned into late-night emails, personal questions, meetings in hotel rooms during conferences." Lauren frowned. "Did he—" "No," Jenna said quickly. "Not physically. He was smarter than that. He never touched me, just implied." Lauren was quiet. Jenna continued. "When I pushed back, I started getting performance warnings. My access to files disappeared. My emails were monitored. Then one day, HR called me in and said I was being let go for cultural misalignment. No severance, no explanation." "And no one stood up for you," Lauren said. "No one even asked," Jenna replied. Lauren took out a small notebook. "Do you have anything from that time? Records, emails, anything?" Jenna hesitated. Then she pulled a small flash drive from her coat pocket and placed it gently on the table. "I downloaded everything before they shut my system down. Emails, meeting requests, calendar logs, even the flagged HR notes. I didn't think I'd ever use it." Lauren picked it up carefully. "This could change everything." Jenna looked her dead in the eye. "It won't matter unless you do something with it." "I plan to." "Good," Jenna said. "Because Avery and we're not the only ones." Lauren blinked. "There were others?" Jenna nodded. "Names I never knew, women who disappeared from the firm one by one. Promotions that were rescinded, rumors that never stuck." Lauren wrote something in her notebook. Then she looked back at Jenna. "You've carried this for a long time." Jenna gave a bitter smile. "Silence protects power. I kept quiet because I thought no one would believe me. Or worse, that they'd believe me and still do nothing." "Not this time," Lauren said. Jenna nodded. "Then let's hope the truth is finally louder." They stood to leave. Outside, the sun had broken through the clouds. The world looked a little less gray. Back at Carter and Gray headquarters in Los Angeles, Preston Carter sat in his corner office, sipping scotch and reviewing quarterly forecasts. The retreat had been a success, at least on the surface, and whatever embarrassment the maid had caused, it had blown over. He told himself that, but something about her voice still lingered. "You taught me more than you know." His assistant buzzed in. "Lauren Reeves would like a word." "Send her in." Lauren entered, composed as always, but her eyes carried something sharper than usual. "Preston," she said, "we need to talk." He gestured to a chair. "Of course. Is this about the Q2 campaign?" "No," she said. "It's about Avery Mitchell and Jenna Coleman." Preston's smile didn't falter, but his hand paused mid-sip. "I'm not sure I follow." "I think you do," Lauren said calmly. "I have documentation. I've spoken to both of them, and I've initiated a board meeting next Monday." His jaw tightened. "You're overstepping." "I'm doing my job," she said, "and protecting this company from a scandal you buried." His voice turned cold. "You'll regret this." Lauren stood. "No, Preston, I think you will." She left the office without another word. Preston stared after her, the taste of scotch suddenly bitter on his tongue. The boardroom on the 30th floor of Carter and Gray was unusually quiet for a Monday morning. 12 chairs surrounded a sleek mahogany table. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the Los Angeles skyline, but inside, tension pressed heavier than the air outside. Lauren Reeves sat near the center, laptop closed, notes organized. Her expression was calm, purposeful. Avery Mitchell sat to her right, dressed in simple navy, hair pulled back, no jewelry. She looked like someone with nothing to prove and nothing left to hide. Noah Carter entered next. He nodded once to Lauren and sat across from his father's usual seat. Then came the others, board members, legal counsel, the head of HR. Preston Carter was last. He walked in like he always had, confident, commanding, a smirk tucked beneath his tailored suit. But when he saw Avery seated at the table, the smirk faltered. "This is highly irregular," he said, placing his briefcase down. "We've convened under Bylaw 9-3, Lauren replied, "Emergency Ethics Review." Preston's eyes narrowed. "On what grounds?" She looked him directly in the eye. "Allegations of abuse of power, retaliation, and ethical misconduct. Historical and ongoing." Silence followed. Then one board member cleared his throat. "Let's proceed." Lauren stood. She began with Jenna's story, chronological, detailed, backed by records, emails, HR flags, patterns of retaliation. She played audio from a 2014 team meeting where Jenna's absence was dismissed by Preston as a compliance casualty. Next, she laid out Avery's journey, Columbia Law, the mentorship, the letter that never reached the dean, then the manufactured plagiarism charge, the silent expulsion, and how Preston had stood behind it all. Every claim was supported. Noah presented the academic report Avery had written, one that had mysteriously resurfaced under another student's name a year later with Preston as faculty advisor. Then came the flash drive, Jenna's archive, meeting logs, private calendar invites, comments and annotations that implied manipulation, not overt, but chilling in their precision. "I didn't touch her," Preston finally said. "Or Jenna, or anyone." "No one said you did," Lauren replied. "But you used your position to discredit, silence, and dismantle. You have no proof," he snapped. "I have enough," she said quietly, "and more is coming." The door opened. Wesley Grant, a former investigator with internal compliance, entered and placed a folder on the table. "I was asked to look into a few irregularities," he said. "I found more than expected." He distributed sealed summaries to each board member, financial incentives for early dismissals, suppressed complaints, emails flagged and rerouted without HR approval. Then he pulled out a USB. "This," he said, "contains a recording from a closed-door meeting in 2013. He hit play. Preston's voice filled the room. "She's too loud, too visible. Make her someone they forget." No records, no drama, just gone. Avery closed her eyes. When the recording ended, no one spoke. Preston stood, jaw clenched. This is a witch hunt. I've built this company from the ground up. You all owe me. Noah rose slowly. You built it, and now you're breaking it. I've given you everything, Preston growled. This is how you repay me? Lauren stood as well. You gave us a name, but we'll rebuild it with something better. The lad board member cleared his throat. Mr. Carter, effective immediately, you are placed on administrative leave pending full investigation. Your access to company systems is suspended. Legal counsel will follow up. Preston stared at them all, eyes darting from face to face. You'll regret this. No, Avery said softly. You will. Security waited outside the door. He walked past them without a word. When the door clicked shut behind him, the room exhaled. The meeting adjourned. Avery sat still for a moment longer. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a single folded sheet of paper. Quietly, she slid it across the table to Lauren. What's this? Lauren asked. My application, Avery said. Director of Ethics and Integrity. If you're rebuilding this company, I want to help. Lauren smiled. You're hired. Noah nodded. Welcome back. Avery exhaled for the first time that morning. Outside, the Los Angeles sun had climbed high. The city buzzed below, oblivious to the quiet revolution unfolding 30 floors above. But Avery knew. Sometimes justice didn't arrive in a roar. Sometimes it came in a room full of silence, broken by truth. 5 years later, the spring breeze swept gently through the tree-lined pathways of Columbia Law School. The sun filtered through blooming dogwoods, casting soft light over a crowd gathered in the courtyard. Faculty in gowns, students in caps and tassels, proud parents clapping. Cameras clicked, speeches echoed. But at the center of it all stood Avery Mitchell. No longer a name buried, but one etched in legacy. She wore a navy blazer and a silver pin on her lapel that read, Truth Builds, the motto of the foundation she now led. Her hair was streaked with silver at the temples, not from age, but from fire endured. She looked out over the podium with calm eyes and a voice ready to carry something heavier than a degree. Thank you, Dean Rosenthal, she began, nodding to the man who'd introduced her. And thank you to the class of 2025. A quiet laugh rippled across the crowd. She smiled. When I walked away from this campus 13 years ago, my name was erased. Today, it's written again, not in protest, but in partnership. The audience listened, hushed. Silence is often mistaken for peace, but silence is not peace. It's pause, it's potential, and sometimes it's pain waiting to be named. She paused, letting that settle. I was once told that my voice was disruptive, but the truth is, justice is disruptive. It should unsettle us. It should make us look twice at what we call normal. In the front row, Noah Carter watched with quiet pride. Next to him sat Lauren Reeves, now president of Ethics and Culture at Integrity Partners, the reformed company they'd all built from the rubble of Carter and Gray. Next to them sat Diane Turner, in a simple dress, hands clasped, eyes shining. Avery continued, to every student here who has ever been overlooked, underestimated, or unheard, know this. Your worth is not determined by how loud you are, but by how true you remain. Applause broke out, slow at first, then stronger. And to those who have made mistakes, she added, may you find the courage to make amends, not just in words, but in work. She stepped back from the microphone as the crowd rose to its feet. Later that day, inside the law school's new ethics center, a small framed photo hung near the entrance. 2 young women, arms around each other, in black robes and proud smiles, Avery Mitchell and Jenna Coleman. Underneath, a brass plaque read, in honor of those who refused to be silent. As guests mingled inside, Avery stood quietly by the window, watching a group of students walk by. One young woman, fresh-faced, paused and turned. Excuse me, she said. Are you... Her? Avery smiled. Depends who her is. The girl hesitated. The woman who changed the rules, who made this place safer. Avery tilted her head. I'm one of many, but yes, I'm her. The student looked uncertain. How did you survive all of it? Avery thought for a moment. By remembering who I was, she said softly, before they tried to erase me. The girl nodded slowly, then walked away. Lauren approached from behind. They'll write books about you, you know. Avery chuckled. They already tried once. Didn't end well. Different kind of book this time, Lauren said. Noah joined them, holding 2 cups of coffee. You ready for your next speech? Avery raised an eyebrow. There's another? He grinned. Mentorship dinner. You're the keynote. She shook her head, smiling. You never give me a break. We owe you too much. Avery took the coffee and looked out the window one last time. The campus hadn't changed much, but she had, and so had the world around her, because she had spoken, stood, stayed. Because silence was no longer the only story told. There was a stillness in Avery's final steps through Columbia's courtyard, not of silence, but of peace. It wasn't the applause or the plaque bearing her name that carried weight, but the quiet knowing that dignity, once stripped, had been reclaimed with grace. That's what lingered. This story wasn't just about one woman rising from the shadows. It was about the truth, finding its way through years of silence, one voice at a time. Avery Mitchell didn't shout. She didn't seek revenge. She stood, steadily, for something deeper. The right to exist without fear, and the right to be remembered for more than the damage done to her. Her journey was a reminder that often those the world tries hardest to erase carry the clearest mirror to its flaws and its hope. Within the Black community, stories like Avery's are more than familiar. They're inherited. They echo in family dinners, whispered prayers, unmarked report cards, and the glances exchanged when someone succeeds, but at what cost? Avery's quiet defiance was not just personal. It belonged to a lineage of strength too often misread as passivity. She reclaimed space not by demanding power, but by refusing to give it away. Her story urges us to remember. Real justice is not about punishment. It's about restoration. The kind that allows communities, especially the Black community, to not only heal, but to rebuild something better than what was lost. It's in the mentors who show up without being asked, the friends who believe before the world does, and the willingness to speak up even when no one claps at the end. The lesson isn't flashy. It's not meant to be. It's as simple and as stubborn as the truth. Hold on to your dignity, defend your worth, and when someone tells you your voice is too loud, too complicated, or too late, speak anyway. Like a lighthouse left burning for just one lost traveler, your light might be the only thing that keeps someone else afloat. In the Black community, where silence has often been survival, stories like Avery's help shift the tide. They make space for softness without shame, and for justice that doesn't have to arrive with sirens, but with a chair pulled out and a place set for every voice once ignored. Take a moment, wherever you are, to sit with this story. Think about the Averys you've met, or perhaps the Avery you've been, and if it stirred something in you, if it reminded you of something worth holding on to, then pass it on. Tell someone, share the light, because sometimes the quietest story is the one that changes everything.